Good afternoon, and welcome to our last session of the day. I hope you've had a chance to view the videos that Kayla recorded. They were released during the breaks throughout the day, and they are wonderful. Before we get started with our Q&A today, I want to introduce our speaker. Kayla Harley is a chronic facial pain warrior of 11 years, diagnosed with chronic TMJ and trigeminal neuralgia in 2016. Her pain is a result of facial trauma from a nearly fatal car accident that she had while volunteering for a nonprofit arts organization in college. Today, she represents and advocates for those living life with invisible conditions and incurable diseases, as well as serves in diverse communities as a certified holistic wellness practitioner, TEDx speaker, self-published author, optimal life breathologist, gyrotonic and gyrokinesis trainer, and full spectrum doula. It is with the love, strength, and prayers from her family that Kayla remains positive and hopeful. She uses her social media platforms to elevate this message of self-care, healing, and creating a life of daily balance. You can read Kayla's full bio in the presenter section on the conference platform. Kayla, I want to welcome you today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited to have you. Anyone who has any questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. You can put them in the chat as well, but it's easier if everybody just puts things in the Q&A. I'm going to ask a few to start us off. Kayla, you in your first video, you talked about the difficult days that you face and your facial pain. How do you cope with those difficult days that you describe in that first video?
Sure, it's been a long journey. I realized at the core of it, it's spiritual, and I have to show myself grace. So, in moments where I may wake up triggered from a rough night, or maybe something I ate, or stress, or if I didn't get enough sleep, whatever it is that's making me feel out of sorts, I show myself grace and remind myself how far I've come, and that I am a facial pain warrior, and that what I'm doing and how I look or appear is not supposed to be normal. And I can allow myself to just ebb and flow. And eventually, I'll find my pace or my rhythm for the day. So it's definitely a spiritual and like a mental thing that I tap into to cope.
Excellent, excellent. And tell me why you describe yourself as a facial pain warrior.
Sure. So, as you rightfully stated in my story, um, this the symptoms slowly matriculated through the years after a car accident. I had no idea that anything was wrong after I experienced head-on collision, whiplash. I just had like some crunchy kinkiness in my jaw. It was very painful to eat. So I was saying, okay, Kayla, just take it easy. And then after that, I actually, had, I think, 4 of my molars removed all at once. And I have a high tolerance for pain. So most of the time when my face was experiencing discomfort or the impact from the accident or stress or strain or trauma, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay, it'll pass, I'll get over it, or I'll learn to deal with it. But then as the symptoms matriculated into more strange things like pains in my leg, numbness, and other parts of my body, it really scared me. And so I've just been on this full spectrum journey, and I really have evolved as a person. And when I recall that through the years, it's amazing. It's definitely saddening, but it's amazing to me how I can say, wow, I've been living with and through this very difficult disease, difficult condition. So I must be a warrior, because I'm still managing to do the day-to-day things, the things that seem simple, like getting groceries, or taking a call or answering an email that may be just basic to anyone. That might take me just like one email. Just one email feels like I've accomplished something, and that makes me feel like a warrior. It makes me feel like I'm enough, even when I probably don't feel that way.
I think that's a great perspective, and I think one of the things that you said in your video was how this pain is it's a big part of your life, but it does not define you, and it doesn't define everything that you do. And I really loved how you talked about that. Can you expand on that a little bit and talk about um, how you do try to focus on the other things that bring you joy in your life?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So, at the point where I got the proper diagnosis, which took a while, actually, took me a couple of doctors, a couple go rounds. Like I said, I had that high tolerance for pain, and it was first showing up as chronic TMJ, and then TN was introduced as the proper diagnosis. I was at the peak of my career. I was in my early 20s. I was in the entertainment industry. Um, so it was a shock, to me, to my body, to my self esteem. But when I finally started to prioritize care and pain management and treatment and support, um, I realized that my body still had some sort of muscle memory. So, even though I'm no longer professionally dancing, I was able to move into the wellness side of things, which first was for me, and then to include others where I could make a life for myself and also be transparent, because I didn't see myself being able to work a typical 9 to 5. I did need, and still do need, that freedom to work remotely and sort of maybe have flexibility with my hours or my controlling my environment. So I realized that there were still parts of my life I could show up for. I
Mhm.
just had to do it differently. And so I try to lean into that. I remember the things I like to do. I love Tai Chi. I love breath work. I love to sit and read. I'm actually right now on a wellness retreat in St. Vincent in Bequia. And, in the beginning, because I'm still young and trying to find my way, I was thinking to myself, really, Kayla? Like, are you going to, it's a financial thing. You're going to take, X amount of dollars and go on a retreat? Like, why don't you think about the next stages of your life? And then I remember that as a facial pain warrior, this is a part of my healing, my journey, showing up for myself. So I just try to remember that I'm still a person with
Mhm.
dreams and hopes, and things that I enjoy, like the simple things of life. My family, I love to laugh. I just try to remember, because I definitely had days, Melissa, where I thought I was doomed. I literally felt like, okay, I'm just going to suffer all my life. I'm going to be in pain all my life. I need to get used to it. And I had that mentality, um, until I realized, wait a minute, I'm still waking up every day and I still have some energy and strength. Why don't I lean into that more, that part of the story, more than like the devastation of it all? So, yeah.
Which I think is such a key part of, of your story and why we wanted to talk to you today, because I do think you've done an amazing job of, you're young. I mean, you're very young, and to be experiencing the kind of pain that you're experiencing, and you have had those feelings of devastation and hopelessness, but then you've chosen, like you said, to really lean into that hope. And so what are some of the things that have helped you do that? And does kind of communicating and getting your story out there to maybe, whether it's to inspire other people or even maybe to inform them, is that part of what kind of keeps you going?
That's a really good question. In the beginning, I was not vocal about it. I was actually so unsure of a lot of things, so I didn't know how to put the words. And then I think also, like, socially and culturally, as a woman of color, we're expected to be strong. We're expected to be resilient. We're expected to just, take the licks and keep on ticking. And I was like, wait a minute, something's not right here. I'm actually incapable of doing certain things. I have to acknowledge that. So in the beginning, I would say no, I didn't have the confidence to share, and I was very silent with my suffering because I also didn't see or know anyone else around that was dealing with it until I found the Facial Pain Association. And then I realized that there were some community groups, so I started to lean into the young patients with TN. Showing up for Zooms. I've been to a couple of in-person gatherings. It was hard, but I was able to bring my mother to one of them. That was also like the hump. Because I was young, she didn't want to accept this for me. She was just like, no, this is not my daughter.
Mhm.
This is not her experience. And then I had to just, kind of reel it and all of that in to say that it's okay to acknowledge, yes, this is happening. Yes, this is real, so that I could go on. But yeah, definitely community is huge. And then I have a friend of mine who still does dance professionally, but she has scoliosis, really bad scoliosis, and she started a foundation. And, I looked at her and how she was sharing her story and, bringing out the joy of the moments. And I said, I need to do the same thing with facial pain.
Mhm.
I have to, because, like you said, I'm young. And in my community groups, I didn't see people my age that had TN. So I felt like it was a moral obligation for me to share that there's something different that people are struggling with, and it looks like this, and sometimes you can't see it at all. Because facial pain warriors, we're not only warriors for TN or, whatever the diagnosis. I feel like we're warriors for life. And people who are dealing with whatever it is, depression or anxiety, or you know they're also suffering in silence too. So as I share my story, I realize more people come forward and they say, yeah, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. I wonder if it's hereditary, and I'll deal with it. Yes, I also deal with X, Y, whatever Z. So like, it's way bigger than me. It's way bigger.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to go back a little bit to your family and to your friends and the people who support you. I was talking in one of the sessions today about how difficult it is for family members to deal with this sometimes, because the when you're in pain, it's difficult to engage the way that you want to, or love the way that you want to, or any of that. So, how has your family dealt with that? You said it was hard for your mom to accept, and what about friends and doing things and being social and that sort of thing? Has that been affected, and how have they reacted?
Yes, it's been difficult. Like I said, the expectation is for me to be strong, resilient, press on. And I think people will say inspirational words every now and then, and they think that it's helpful, but actually it kind of brings you back a bit. It feels like you're being dismissed when people say, like, oh, you're fine, you'll make it. I think that people are afraid. When I tell them like what I'm really going through, they don't know what to say. So they just encourage blindly, and it can feel lonely, to be honest. So I spent a lot of years in isolation. For a long time, I didn't date, I didn't feel attractive. Um, I, even still today, in my early 30s, I'm not sure if I want to have a family or children. Not because I don't want it, but I just think like it's so much work for me to just show up for myself. Am I going to be able to do this for a child?
Mhm.
Um, or, will I find the right partner that will be compassionate enough to listen and not make me feel like I'm a burden, or, oh, here she goes again, or she's having an episode, or, um, honestly, it's a tough space. Um, for me, TN, I don't get like the electrical bolts shocks like some people have.
Mhm.
I just get like a dull, dry spasm and like constant sensation of pulling. Like my
Mhm.
jaw and my neck are being pulled in opposite directions. And when I feel myself getting tense and tight, I feel awkward. So like I just don't want to be around people. And then thinking about having to explain what's going on with me, that can be discouraging, to be honest. Um, so it's just like you don't know how to navigate. It's just like every day you don't have to give a dissertation. Do you know what fish pain is? Here's
Right.
TN. Have the
Right.
strength for that.
Right.
Um, so it's I'm still finding the core of me and like finding a sense of ease in describing it. But I get better, like at when I sometimes when I have spasms or my face is twitching. I used to be very embarrassed by that.
Mhm.
Or like sometimes I'll just get lockjaw, I'll get stuck in a smile or something. I used to get embarrassed by that. Now I don't. I
Good.
just say, hey, this is me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we have one question from someone, and it's kind of leads to something that I was going to ask you. There's a question: have you been on any facial pain medications? You talked a lot about supplements and your diet and nutrition and all of that sort of thing, but are you on any medications? And then also, I was curious about. You said it took a while to get diagnosed. So, what was that journey? Who did you see, and who found out? Who finally figured out what was going on?
Right. To be honest, it's been so many years of me living like alternative and holistically. It was Dr. Cameron, gosh, his last name is escaping me.
Mhm.
But it was a pain management medical office that diagnosed me properly with TN.
Okay.
Before that, it was a woman of color by the name of, I think, Kim Williams. And I just remember like one side of my eye being completely shut like this.
Mhm, mhm,
And I was just like, I don't know how to describe this, but I'm in so much pain. And I just had my fist like this. And she was like, that's TN.
mhm,
And I said, really? I mean, no, she said, that's TMJ. I said, really? You talking about when you grind your teeth at night? She said,
mhm,
yeah, TMJ can be very intense.
mhm,
And I said, wow. So I had to go, Cameron Saroff, I believe his name is
mhm.
Saref, in Rockville, Maryland. I just remember getting a pain shot in my face to release the tension. I could finally open my eye for the first time in weeks.
Wow. So is he like a neurologist or just a pain specialist?
He's a pain specialist, so
Okay,
he gave me that immediate release, and
sure.
then he said, "Go see a neurologist." So then I went to see Dr. Kenneth Kudelko. Oh wow, the names are coming back. Dr. Kenneth Kudelko. I had some concerns about cervical dystonia because the movement of my jaw and the TMJ and the rotation was still going on.
Mhm,
In my neck was pulling different. I felt like my body was trying to compromise what was happening in my face. So I was
mhm,
just like straining in all different directions.
mhm,
So I started to get nerve blocks in my face, in my neck, quite often. They would help for a little while.
mhm,
And then I sort of went back to working in the industry, and really the stress of that life kind of made things worse for me. So then I came home after a 6 or 9 month tour, and I said, I'm done. I just
mhm,
need to devote my life to healing and taking it easy and figuring out how to live with TN because this is what it is now. Then I went on to the Center for Facial Pain Recovery, and they really changed my life. I got to a point of desperation where I was like, I'm tired of the x rays, I'm tired of the MRIs, because either they would see nothing or they would say, we see a little something, but we don't see enough for us to go in or make an incision or a surgical procedure. And it was frustrating to me. I literally was like Googling like microvascular decompression. And
yeah,
I was like, who can do this for me? Just
right.
going to doctors like, help. And they were like,
Mhm,
we're sorry, we don't think this is right for you. So surgical procedure was out. In terms of medication, I don't recall the name, but I was given some kind of epilepsy medicine.
anti-seizure medication?
Yeah,
Mhm,
anti-seizure.
mhm,
I tried it, didn't feel a significant difference. I really felt like before I could see a difference, I needed a drastic lifestyle change first.
sure.
So I started to focus on that, like eliminating the stress, getting away from city life, moving away from New York, moving away from Philadelphia where I was,
Mhm,
going home, restarting, and figuring out that part first. And then I started to retreat in nature a lot and like slow down and then return to, okay, Kayla, do you think this medication could help? I was given a lot of muscle relaxers. I'm 5'2" and 115 pounds. It didn't agree with me.
Yeah.
I just had, nightmares that were real. Me driving and falling asleep at the wheel. I was like, I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to feel numb or disoriented. So honestly, I just try to find ways to live with my pain in a healthy way. So yeah, I hope that answers that person's question, like taking on that journey.
Yeah.
I still do go to Center Facial Pain Recovery, and he mostly just resets and realigns my neck and my jaw, and I do feel a difference. I've gotten dry needling from Dr. Carl Jung in Bethesda, Maryland. I do highly recommend him. He works a lot with my abdominal wall. It just opened my eyes to the fact that it could, for me in particular, I can't speak to anyone else's situation, but for me, it was more than the concentration of my face. I had to focus on my neck. I had to focus on like my lower abdomen and other places where I was holding tension and stress to release the pain and the pressure of the pain. And I noticed that it did help. Oh yes, again, another person is coming back to me. It's been a long journey, y'all. Forgive me.
No, not at all. That's okay. And you don't, I was asking really the types of doctors who you saw, not necessarily the names of people, but the types, just because it's always interesting to understand people go to dentists or neurologists or neurosurgeon and how they find that diagnosis. So, I don't want to cut you off at all. I wish I had longer to talk to you. This has been so lovely. But we are getting ready to start our closing. So I'm going to have to make that the last question. Everything, you said was so lovely. And I really appreciate the candid nature that you've approached this. You've just shared your experience so fully. And I hope that anyone who has not had a chance to watch Kayla's videos goes back and watches them. They're in the agenda and you can take a look at them. She talks a lot about how she copes with her pain, as well as nutrition and supplements and different therapies that she does that, have been working for her. But again, Kayla, thank you for sharing your experience so fully. You're really inspiring and you're real, which makes you very easy to relate to. And I just appreciate everything that you've brought to this event today. Attendees, I'd like to thank you and ask you to navigate back to the agenda for today's closing. I'm going to offer a quick wrap up of the day and then talk about what to expect tomorrow. So thank you very much. Kayla, thank you so much.